The end of the year is almost over, so it is time to talk about goal setting for 2021. In this video, I'm going to be going in depth on what I do to set my goals every year. This is what I did last year and also what I'll be doing this year. I'm talking about setting publishing goals, setting income goals, and of course, just preparing yourself to act as a business in the year of 2021. This means tracking expenses, tracking income, all of that. So let's dive deep into how I track all of this stuff and do all of the goal setting. If you like weekly videos on writing, book publishing, and book marketing, be sure to hit the subscribe button as well as the bell notification icon. Hello everyone, my name is Lynn. I'm an author, book cover designer, and the creator of the Book Launch Planner, and today I'm going to do a deep dive into all of my goal setting. Now, all of my goal setting and income tracking and all of the stuff we're going to be talking about today comes from a very business standpoint of view. So we're going to be diving into mostly Google Sheets because that's where I track everything. And basically, to do that, we need to head over to my desk and we're just gonna dive right in and start sorting through all of the sheets that I use. As a bit of a bonus, I'm taking some of my favorite sheets that I use for goal setting and expense tracking and planning for the next year, and I've compiled them all into a folder that if you would like, you can download for free. Just use the link below. All you have to do is subscribe to my newsletter and it will be emailed directly to you. So with that said, let's go and jump into it. Okay, so here we are at my desk. I've got all the folders open right now. Now, some of the things that I talk about are going to be included in the download that you'll be able to get, and some of them you'll just have to make from scratch yourself because you kind of have to customize it to yourself, and it's really not that hard to do. So, first things first, let's talk about creating your 2021 release plan. So in the Google Drive folder, it will be labeled 2021 Release Plan, and it will look like this. So we have the months over here, and then we have Project 1, Project 2, Project 3, and then Other. And what you have to do for all these files that I give you, because they're all Google Drive files, you'll need to go to File, make a copy, and then save it to your Google Drive by clicking down here. That way, once you save it, you can delete these little directions and you can customize everything yourself. So the way this works is pretty simple. We have the months, and each month has 4 rows. So we have the first week of January, the second week, third week, fourth week, and then we jump into February. So you get the idea. So basically, I use this to plan out when I think a book is gonna release. And to help you visualize it a little bit more, I'm gonna jump over to the one I had created for 2020. And just full disclosure, half of what's written in here didn't happen. 2020 was a very stressful year for more reasons outside of what has happened with everyone else. I had my own personal setbacks that I had to work through, and for that reason, basically everything on this release plan for this past year didn't end up happening, especially this events column. So if next year we are graced with the ability to do in-person events, you can make yourself an events column, but otherwise I did not include that. So here I have Sick and Twisted. So I had set goals for myself, like January, I was going to review the plot and structure, add in any missing scenes. In February, I was going to rewrite it for draft 2. And then at the end of February, find out what needs to be edited. In March, I was going to rewrite with feedback. And then I was going to print out the book and edit it. And then after I edit it again, I was going to find beta readers and send the story to beta readers. You get the idea. So then the farther I worked into it and I had all these steps laid out for myself, I was able to figure out when I'd be able to do the pre-order and the cover reveal and then the actual release date. So as you guys can see, None of this happened. Sick and Twisted still isn't published. I had to take a break from it for personal reasons, just because the story was personally really difficult to write. And then I did the same for the book launch planner. So you don't have to keep it just to books. If you have other products, like the book launch planner I had for myself, where the planner had a pre-order and I had all these plans to market it and that sort of thing. We have, when I was publishing my children's book, which is probably the only thing that went to plan, I had planned out for myself, you know, when I was going to illustrate it and, you know, do the editing. You can see and hear I even had plans for BookCon before BookCon was canceled. So that's basically how this works. So you just kind of fill in the blanks. And I'm not going to show you my plans for 2021 because I've got a lot of plans and I want to keep them secret. So with that said, we can move on to 2021 goals. This is a sheet that is not included in the little packet that I'm giving you guys because it's just a Word document. That's all it is. So the way I do it is I break it down into categories just so it's really easy. Like once a month, I will have, like, I will call it my little ritual, and I'll talk about that more, where I have plans on what I'm going to be doing once a month to touch base with these goals, and I'll talk about that later in the video. But this is just meant to be an overarching thing that you can always come back to and look at. So first up is publishing. So whatever goals you had made in your release plans, you can write those down here. So of course I've blacked them out because I don't want you to know them. Then we have book sales. So I personally like to set a personal, like, at the end of this year, I want to sell this many books. And that means I have to sell this many books a month. That sort of thing. But I also like to be very loose with this goal. Like, I set this goal assuming that I don't release anything new. So this goal pertains specifically to books that I've already published. This does not pertain to any new and upcoming releases because those will sell better automatically, and I won't really know what goal I want to set for the new releases until I get closer to the release of that book. And again, that's blacked out just because those are my own personal goals. The book launch planner, I set my own goals in terms of like how many planners I want to sell a month, and then I also have the stickers, so I have goals for like the stickers. I have a goal to keep my expenses less than $600 a month. This makes it so I can make more money. I used to have a really, really bad habit of keeping my expenses low as a business, and that made it so it didn't matter how much money I made, I was still never getting a paycheck because I just was constantly spending money on stuff that I didn't necessarily need. For some people, $600 a month may sound like a lot, but for me, I have a lot of different little pockets in my business and things that I have to pay for, so that's actually like somewhat reasonable. Next we have YouTube. So I like to give myself two different overarching YouTube goals, and so for the year of 2021, my goal is to hit 20,000 subscribers. We'll see if that happens. And then my other goal is to make $350 a month off of YouTube. I kind of set the bar low for this one because YouTube is an interesting thing, and I can never figure out, like, they change their policies so often, so your money really fluctuates a lot. So that's like a goal that I set for myself that I really hope I hit higher than that. But if I don't hit the goal, I won't be upset about it. And then cover design, I just have a personal goal of getting like $2,000 a month off of that when I do my cover design and book formatting, just because that's like my steady stream of income. And again, that's more of like, I would say on the lower end, but that's like if I can consistently hit that, that would be lovely. And then content goals, this is more just to remind myself, like, what is the point of the content I create. So this in particular is pertaining to Instagram. And so I'm saying on my personal Instagram, which is Mandi Lynn Writes, I want to post about my book and the writing processes. And then I want to keep the more advice sort of posts to the book launch planner, where I'll talk about the publishing and marketing process. And I don't think I'm done filling this out yet. I think content-wise, I might add in a few more goals, but I figured this was a good starting point and it helps you guys get the idea of what I'm talking about. Okay, so the next one is where we start talking about money. So I've talked about money quite a bit in my past videos because I feel like it's something that authors aren't taught how to use their business as a business, because at the end of the day, writing and publishing books is a business, so you need to treat it that way. So as a business, we need to talk about numbers like income and expenses, and I have a video where I talk more about that, so that will be linked down below as well as up in the cards. In fact, I have an entire playlist called The Business of Being an Author. I believe that's what it's called, but I recommend you watch every playlist on there because it just kind of might answer some questions that everyone's always thinking but no one's really technically talking about. So one of the things I do every year and throughout the year is I track my income and expenses. So usually the first thing I will do at the beginning of every month is that I track my expenses and income for the last month. So this is the income tracker that I created for myself, and let me show you how I'm gonna use it, because I have a video where I showed you how I calculate my paycheck that I pay myself every month. And I show you my expense tracker and how I use it, and I show you my income tracker, but I actually have updated my income tracker for 2021 because I found I wasn't using my income tracker as well as I wanted to. So let me walk you through it. So basically the biggest thing that I changed is how I'm gonna use it, not so much what it looks like. So this column right here, what I'm gonna do now, because I was noticing I would just come up with like my total income at the end of the month. I would go through my bank statements, and whenever I had money coming in, I would write it down and I would total it up at the end of the month, and I would be like, cool, that was my income for the end of the month. Now that's fine, but I really enjoy breaking it down between like, this is how much money I made off the book launch planner. This is how much money I made off of book sales. This is how much money I made off of YouTube. And this is how much money I made off of cover design. And because I get most of my payments through PayPal, and that includes the book launch planner and cover design, those were kind of lumped together, and I was too lazy to figure out what's what, or at least on a monthly basis. At the end of this year, I plan on breaking it down separately, but I did not break it down on a monthly basis, which is just going to make it that much harder for myself now at the end of this month. So you see this column right here. So basically, if I ever get an email from Amazon saying, we just deposited this money into your account, I'm gonna put a date on it. So say it was like January 2nd. I'm gonna put how much money it was. Maybe it was 99 cents, you never know. And then what category it is. And for me, the categories are these, whether it was the book launch planner, book sales, YouTube, or cover design. So I'm gonna write that down there. And I'm just going to do this throughout the month. So every time I get an email about a payment, whether it be cover design, the book launch planner, book sales, or YouTube, I'm going to come in here and record the payment. At the beginning of the month, I'm going to go back into my bank statements and double check all this information to make sure it's okay. And then I'm going to total it up over here. And then at the top here, I just have sales stats. This is completely just for me. I will grab reports from KDP and Ingram Spark and my own book launch planner website, and I will record the quantities up here just so at the end of the year I can see what my best sellers were and if my numbers grew throughout the year or if they dwindled throughout the year. And then you can see down here that everything is broken down by month. so you have all of your tabs and you can keep track of everything. So then after you figure out your income, you want to jump into your expense tracker and you can track all of that here. I talk a lot more about my expense tracker in my other video where I tell you how I figure out how I pay myself every month. So I'm going to just go ahead and tell you guys to watch that video because I don't want this video to be too long. But just know there are a few little equations built into this, so you just plug in these two things, figure out how much you want to put aside for savings, figure out how much you want to pay off your company credit card, and then at the end of all that is what you get to pay yourself. So again, if you want a more in-depth little lesson on how to use this, be sure to watch that video, which will be linked down below. So with that said, now that we've talked about income and expenses and your paycheck, we're going to be talking about goals versus reality. So this is something, another little spreadsheet I like to create myself. It's a little intense compared to the other ones because there's just a lot going on. But basically what I do is I have, for every month, I have my income streams listed out. For you, since I made this copy for you guys, I kind of mostly just blanked it out, but feel free to fill it in. So here we have our income streams for January. So for me, it would be like book sales, the book launch planner, and then cover design, and then YouTube. So basically, those are all my income streams, and then I would set goals, like income goals for those income streams, and then at the end of the month, I'd be like, okay, this is what I actually earned. And then that way you can kind of see how close you are to what your income goal is compared to your actual income. And then at the end of that, I just like to put how many books I sold that month. Like just overarching, this is how many books I sold. And then for me, since I also do planners, I would put how many planners I sold. Or if I want to do stickers, I would put how many stickers I sold. Just so I have like an overarching, like at the end of the year, I can see, all right, I consistently started selling better, and it's all in one sheet. And also the reason why I love this sheet in particular is because this is what I used when I worked full-time and I wanted to slowly make more off of my own business rather than off of my job. So what I would do is that I would be like, all right, I want to work for myself by the end of the year. And to work for myself by the end of the year, I need to make, I don't know, $3,000 to $5,000 a month as a paycheck. Like that's what I feel like I need to work for myself. So then I would work backwards, and every month I would say, like, instead of making, I don't know, like $900 in book sales, I only need to make $800 in book sales this month. And then the month before that, instead of $800, I only need to make $700. So then you are slowly working backwards. For me, it was a little different because I had multiple income streams. I really don't like depending on my book sales for a paycheck. I really don't like that. So for me, I would lean on other things to get a paycheck. But if you say wanted to make $900 in book sales by December next year, you would work backwards. So December, your goal is $900. But then in November, your goal is $800. And in October, your goal is $700. In September, your goal is $600. In August, your goal is $500. July, $400. I have July written twice. I just realized I have a few months in here listed twice. I promise that will be fixed for you guys when you go to download. But you get the idea that by doing it this way, you can slowly work yourself up to the income goal you want to create. And also, I want to just say that the $900 was just literally a number I spitballed. That's going to be a really hard number to hit, especially as a new author, as an author that doesn't have a lot of books in your back pocket to have more book sales. But you get the idea. I was just illustrating that you can kind of work backwards to slowly work up to your income goal. So, with that said, we are going to go to one of the most important sheets. And again, this is another sheet that you guys have seen before. I will link the video where I talk about it really in depth down below so you can see it. But this is a little scheduling sheet that I create for myself where I create my ideal week. So this is my little ideal week. I have two different versions based on like my husband's work schedule. But basically my ideal week for the most part is to spend the morning writing, working out, getting chores done, walk my puppy, then doing some cover design, and then spending the rest of the afternoon doing whatever else work I need to do for myself. So if you want a scheduling sheet like this, the one you get will look more like this, where it's just like white and gray, and then you can write in your own stuff in here, and then you can color code it by going up here. But that way you can fully customize it, because every week when I sit down and I actually go ahead and plan my week, I'm always just like basing it off of this ideal week schedule and seeing really what works for me and how I can get the most done. And lastly, I also just have, this is like my little social media stats sheet. I don't have a download for you guys because like I have multiple Instagrams, multiple email lists, and all of that. If you want to create something like this for yourself, you put all your social medias that you want to track in this column, and then in the top row you just put the months. That way you can see how you are slowly growing over time. Now let's talk about my little monthly ritual. And my monthly ritual is that I have written out, this is my monthly plan. It's nothing intense, I promise. Basically, the way it works is that at the beginning of every month is when I need to wrap up the previous month. That's when I track my expenses, figure out how much to put aside for taxes, and content plan for that month. That basically means that at the beginning of every single month, I choose 2 days that are dedicated to getting my life together, as I call it. So I spend the first day doing everything that you saw here, and then I spend the second day content planning. So basically that breaks down as, on day 1, I figure out my income and my expenses. I fill out all the little stats, like tracking my social media stats. I plan my YouTube content for the month and some of my other content that I post throughout the month. And that's it. That's all I do on the first day. And if I have extra time at the end of the day, I'll do some writing, I'll answer emails, I'll catch up with clients. But that day is dedicated to wrapping up the previous month and getting ready for this current month. Then on day 2 is when we content create, and this is when I batch content create. So on day 2, I plan on doing all my filming for my Instagram Reels, because I've just started doing Instagram Reels and I find them really fun now. And I will film for all of my YouTube videos for that month. I haven't batched content in such a long time, and it's made me dislike creating YouTube videos because every week I have to sit down and I get the camera out, and sometimes I don't want to film, but if I have a day that's dedicated just to filming, it'll make it easier to create content throughout the month. And lastly, if I'm in the mood and I'm inspired, I will take photos for Instagram. So that is literally just my content creating day. So again, the first day we do all the back end stuff, all the analytics, all the boring business stuff. The second day we actually go ahead and content create. That way throughout the rest of the month, I get to do my normal little schedule that you guys saw in the Google Doc. Whew, okay, that was it. That's all of the goal setting I do. That's all of the like pre-planning I do. That's my little monthly ritual, or I should say it's my future monthly ritual. This is a plan I set out for myself going forward because I was just feeling overwhelmed all the time and feeling like I didn't have time to do the content creating that I needed to do, that I wanted to do, but just felt so overwhelmed by my normal weekly schedule. So that is how I do everything I do. If you are interested in any of the templates, they are all going to be linked down below. They are all in one folder on Google Drive, and if you want to access that folder, just subscribe to my newsletter and it'll be sent to you. If you want videos on similar topics to this, just let me know in the comments down below, and I will be happy to make more videos similar to this. Otherwise, I will see you guys all next week.